Yeah, sure. Hi guys, it's Alan. I'm trying to see if that light will get better. I think that'll work. It's Alan, target individual again. And again, when you're if you're not a TI, this sounds like a bunch of crazy talk. The best way to understand, and we're lucky in the sense that with Havana Syndrome, it was in the news for about 5 years every night. Different people from our government, the CIA, Kamala Harris's people, sometimes Secret Service, CIA, FBI people were getting hit with these pulsed magnetic or microwave weapons. And that's the best way. I couldn't imagine being a target individual before Havana Syndrome because people had never heard of these pulse magnetic or microwave weapons. And being a TI before that, it's just, they would have had a doubly hard time convincing people that this is real. But finally having this in the news every night, something like, it's almost like our government, when you're a TI and you know this is real and you know what's happening to you, it's an everyday thing. It's not like it, well, I don't know about other people if it happens once or twice, but for me, it's an everyday thing. Now, I went 30 years of just getting this zaps, electronic feeling little zaps since I was like 15, 16, after an operation and broke my arm in football and separated my shoulder. And within some months, I started getting the zaps to the heart area. I know the heart's right here, but it feels like right here. And it would just keep, and then stop. It zap, and double over. And you're thinking I'm 15, 16. What's, high school, and then Bible college in North Dakota, and then seeing a doctor, and it's like, do you have gas? Do you have bowel movements? I didn't know what a bowel movement was at the time. So it's like, oh yeah, what's bowel movement? It's like, well, it's shit. It's like, oh yeah, I do that. Anyway, so I literally went 30 years of that type of just chronic pain. I did have doctors that sent me to a specialist. I asked to be sent, and they got some pain meds, so that helped, and I was very thankful for that, at least. But you want somebody to know what it is and fix it. But I would have never guessed in 30, I just never had the thought that people in my hometown, Dallas, and I keep bringing it up because it was so, this was during the time when I found out, I was about 45 years old. I'm 51 now. I never would have thought that people in my own hometown, very religious and drain the swamp, they were chanting it at the time, and would knowingly the entire time put me or have me be part of a government painful torture program just to see how these military grade psychological pain torture weapons work on a person. I don't know if they get life insurance from it. They might. I've heard other TIs say that. But again, who's a real TI? Oh, that whole nonsense. I just assume if somebody says they are, I don't go on a big spiel if they are or aren't or perps. I just kind of, or at least I just keep it to myself, because I don't know. People that are TIs don't always have the same. Some TIs don't have V2K, voice to skull. I don't know why they call it K. Is it voice to kill? Because that's seems to be more actually what it is. It's negative talk, but it's so using the Alan Frey microwave hearing effect. That's the scientific term for it. The Alan Frey microwave hearing effect, where it's, a person can stand right next to the person and the person can hear it, but a person standing next to would not be able to hear the voice of a person. But it's like Havana Syndrome. They could hear the noise and the sound and the ringing in the ears, or as one commentator of Havana Syndrome was saying, they could hear the voices, and the voices had a message. And I have that on my created playlist. So if you want to find it, it says about the Havana Syndrome, the voices, and they're with a message. So, which most of them didn't talk about the voices or the message. It was just alleged crickets. So anyway, a great book that people look at. There's two main people that are read. Is I got one on an ebook. It's Dr. John Hall, and a great doctor, I think, in the Texas area. He's got a new breed about satellite terrorism. It's about, again, the Target Individual Program, and he's got another book out. But anyway, Dr. John Hall, it's worth looking into. And then him and Dr. Robert Duncan. He's one of the scientist doctors that worked with CIA and DARPA and helping to make this technology, but they're so compartmentalized. And in this, they talk about the religious scripts that people with V2K they go through. They set these people. When you have V2K, it's voice to skull, but it's so subvocal, and you can hear it, but it's hard to explain. You can genuinely hear it, like a whisper, but you can genuinely hear it and make out the words. It's not it's not vague. Like you can tell what you're saying. It's like dog whistles. Dogs, they can hear stuff very low. Some sounds are below human or higher than what humans can hear. Like dog whistles, they can hear it, but we couldn't hear it. But they can hear it, so they can make it out. And that's kind of what it is in a very layman's, that's what I am. I'm just a layman. But they can, some people or some scientific instruments can hear things, or dog whistles, but they have to do that kind of stuff to hear things. It's like there's colors, I guess, that exist, but we can't see them. So, or dimensions that exist that we can't see, but we know they're there because of scientific and mathematical issues, formulas. Anyway, what happens is that V2K, a lot of times our military will experiment on people like they did in the 50s using subliminal things in movies. And V2K, I think it's a lot of, they try to use negative self-talk or doubt. If it's religion, they'll use a lot of doubt, or create a form of, I think a lot of our mental issues could be experimentation, using negative self, like doubts, like if you're religious, doubts about your faith, Christian, Judaism, Islam, Hindu, they'll make you, if you're religious, they'll make you doubt aspects of your doctrine, anything to make it negative, and question your loyalty to that belief. They use a lot of religious scripts, especially in the Judeo-Christian or Islamic tradition. And they'll use guilt and fear to see how you react. But the thing is, they've spent, if you've been getting these hits to the heart and hits to the head with direct energy, or just by getting zapped by, let's say, it's going to sound weird, but I think Cheryl Atkinson from Full Measure, she's got a show it's on Full Measure, it's on YouTube, where it shows how doctors have experimented on people when they were under anesthesia, not telling the parents of children, not telling the children or their parents, just experimenting and putting things inside of people without their knowledge or consent. You can call it an implant or just an invasive device, but they will put things in, get extra thousands of dollars for doing it, and not tell the parent, certainly not tell the patient, and just experiment and not tell the patient. And then suddenly a year later or 6 months, they start getting pains for no reason, and nobody tells that patient why they're in pain. They were, well, because they're a guinea pig and nobody told them. And evidently, this has been going on for some time, whether it be our government with MK Ultra, experimenting with people with drugs, using prostitutes and johns and not telling anybody. Just that's how bad it is. I think one of the worst ones, and I liked Francis Collins. I loved Francis Collins. He was a great, him and Dr. Craig Venter battled their teams against each other to discover the human genome, all the parts of the DNA and the human genome is way too complex for me to even pretend to understand. But anyway, Francis Collins beat him, got there first, him and his team, and then he became the head of NIH. But the sad thing is that some of the experiments was like the support program of taking premature babies and experimenting with the oxygen, not, seeing how much oxygen they need, how much they don't need, just like a game of chance, which babies will be fortunate to be part of the study as the best amount of. Anyway, it's shocking to think America, the Christian nation, and there's like 4 or 5 schools, Alabama, University of Alabama. Anyway, this is horrible. And damn well, Alabama in the South, it's a very, you think it's a religious, conservative Christian. And yet, when there's money involved, it's amazing how people's religion and ethics just go out the window. They'll be protesting about abortion and anti-abortion, but if they can get money off of torturing premature babies, this was on TV, by the way, and you'd think that would start this uproar. And for whatever reason, anyway, it just blows you away at the level of experimentation. It makes you wonder how much of this whole pandemic thing was a psyop in some ways. Because when you are a target individual and you know that they are playing with your heart, that they can literally just zap just whenever they feel, and have done it many times, and I can hear them yapping. I'm so thankful to have an answer after 30 years. Now it's been 6 years, 7 years of knowing. But you look at the people in your town a lot differently now. I always thought they were good. A lot of the people, I didn't have an enemy in the world. All the people there I thought were pretty good people, and I thought they treated me pretty good because there's nothing that stands out. The only thing I knew is that for 30 years I was in constant pain. They gave me pain medication, and I never would have thought that this was done intentionally and on purpose to get me in pain to see how I would react. And then I went to the rally in Portland, the 2019 E.L.F. Free rally with Dr. Matt and E.L.F. Free and Meigs and all these different people and other TIs, target individuals. And thank God for that, because that finally is like it's what I deeply prayed for every day and night, to find out, Lord, just heal me or find out what it is. I was studying for the ministry when they first did this to me. And I think a lot of them try to spiritualize it and try to make it, it's to bring you closer to the Lord or to Christian, and it's like, that's all I did with my life was study and defend Christianity and apologetics, and study Christianity and different types of liberal versus and conservative Christianity, and studied atheism and apologetics for both sides, and apostates, people who leave religion, become atheists, or people who are atheists and become religious, that between both, but it's weird that they would use religion to get people, and money, of course, to get people to think that they're not doing something evil by going along with this gang stalking, and they're honking the horns and all that, but they're trying to drive the person nuts and then off themselves so they can get money, whether insurance but there's also a lot of fake people, fake TIs, that they'll try to get introduced to that person to get them to trust them, and then, get more information, which is strange because through synthetic telepathy, and now that sounds like another nutty ball of wax, but it's real. They have people who are with locked-in syndrome or are paralyzed who can't communicate, but they're now, thank goodness, they're able to look at a computer screen, or talk to a person by just thinking the words of a conversation that they want to talk to, and those words will appear on a computer screen. And now they can communicate just by thinking. Those words will appear on the screen. Another person can read it, and they'll have a conversation. So they can use this in a wonderful way, this technology. But there's always some weird fuck-ups that, forgive my language, but these are the fucking biggest pieces of shit bastards that take taxpayer money to torture innocent people. People who sometimes have never hurt anybody. It was bad enough when they did it to prisoners. It was bad enough because they already got their sentence. That was bad enough. Because some of these people were innocent, but were in prison anyway. They were innocent, but they also do it now to people who've just never done anything to anybody. I just don't think I ever did, ever, to anybody. I just know I haven't. It's just, but I can hear him now. It's like there's no change. See, 30 years of being zapped in the heart kind of has a tendency, and then it's constant, extremely low frequency, like a little buzz, very low frequency, constantly to the heart, and maybe to the brain, but I know constantly to the heart. The reason I say that is because 7 or 8 times, they stopped that buzzing for about 4 or 5 hours. And they stopped it, and it suddenly, everything relaxed. I could feel again my natural emotions, and it felt wonderful. And that's how I know the difference between. It's like 7 to 8 times it stopped that extremely low frequency buzzing, that tightness, clenching, and then it just relaxed. And that's how I know this is how I'm supposed to be all the time. And then you wake up, or 4 hours later, you're watching TV, and then it comes back. So I know what it's like to not have it. And it's wonderful. That's how I'm supposed to be all the time. Anyway, that constant years of that, and that zapping of the Havana Syndrome, implanted divine, whatever it is, it can create over time a depression and a form of anhedonic, where it takes because a lack of pleasure, or the ability to feel your emotions or feel the enjoyment of normal, because that's what this torture stuff is for. They're trying to purposely do that to you to see if they can get you to, through depression, do something angry, create a crime. Aaron, Alexis, Myron, May, do something, and then of course the police get money by arresting somebody or stopping a crime. Or if there's, unfortunately, like a Nicky Cruz who claimed to have voices and all this, whether he was a V2K, or that Nashville shooting of the lady, and the FBI won't release the manifesto because something's in that manifesto that might be embarrassing to them. V2K, harassment, directed energy weapons. And maybe if they put that out there, it would be too embarrassing. There's already enough right now talking about getting rid of the CIA, FBI. And if that came out, it would make, as horrible as George Floyd murder was, when that came out, when this comes out, it's going to be horrendous, even more so. And yet they're still doing it. And that these little towns are still willing, instead of turning on their maker, or not, cashing those checks and saying, this is horrible. We really need to drain the swamp. Let's drain that swamp. Let's tell on them. They don't. They've already signed it, or they're too worried it's going to hurt their friends. It's going to hurt other people. And they made this decision to go in on together, and it'd be too embarrassing. And they have non-disclosure agreements, and they're afraid of getting sued. And that's the thing. I am willing, if they came out, I am willing, for my case, I think it's more important that this gets out, this information gets out, even after 36 years, I would give them, I just wanted out. I want to be my side healed and maybe a little something to, not so much for me, but money for people who are being experimented on, something to help other people. That's it. I don't want to be some big paycheck for myself. I just don't. Because I've seen what people do for money, including torture other innocent people for money. And I want nothing to do with it. Nothing. I liked working. So it's more important that the people, this message and this truth that our government does is to innocent people, and that this gets out and people find out about it, puts it in the paper. And I would rather have it get out and encourage people that they can tell the truth without them worrying about me coming after them financially. It's more important that people know this. And even after feeling guilty and shame that they were a part of it, it's more important that they come forward and tell the truth and have this be revealed. And if anything, it'll, by saying I won't come after you financially or sue or any of that, if you just come forward, and please do it soon, because then I'll get madder and madder. But please, this is happening to a lot of people. And 36 years for me, 37 years. But in the last 7 years, after falling out of a window, having learned to walk again, and broke my arms and one of my legs, and had to learn to walk again, and still even then nobody told me the truth. I had to find out on the internet and going to the E.L.F free rally, and then finding out the White House bioethics and tons of stuff online. So, but I'm thankful, very thankful. I literally prayed for 30 years for the Lord to either heal it or tell me what it was. And then finally I did find out. And the V2KP, it's like I went and called some different lawyers and went to a couple different newspapers and called and sent some messages to a couple senators. But I got to do more, of course. But and then went to different newspapers and then police departments, but it's just yeah. So anyway, so there's that book, Project Soul Catcher. There is Gang Stalking and Mind Control by Anthony Forwood. Now him don't always see eye to eye on things. They had a debate. He was really one of the scientist makers of it. He felt bad and wanted to kind of redeem his work, and felt bad and wanted to warn people about it. And another couple thing is they use religious scripts and in V2K or through very subtle, before V2K, maybe through negative self-talk. And it's kind of like, this is written by a Christian. They'll use religious stuff. The danger of self-love, re-examining a popular myth. They might use scripture against you, like whether you should have self-esteem and the danger of self-love. And there's some Orthodox books. This one, or The Imitation of Christ, which is the classic. Next to the Bible, this was the most popular book in the history of Christianity. The Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis. It's a great book, but if you read it, you notice that it's a bit more, forgive me for the term, but masochistic. It's so at times against the self. It's just, when Jesus is present, all is well, but when he is absent, everything is hard. Is not this a greater loss to thee than thou should lose the whole world? What can the world give thee without Jesus? To be without Jesus is a grievous hell. To be with Jesus, a sweet paradise. It's really good stuff, but it can be so all or nothing that it's anti-pleasure, anti-anything this world. And so it was very orthodox. Monks loved it. It was all or nothing. But it can be such a strong message of discipleship, and that it's not the Robert Schuller type stuff. It's not Norman Vincent Peale or Joel Osteen. This is all or nothing, almost really almost at times masochistic. It's like you should be against yourself, masochistic. So that it is sweet to despise the world and to serve God. And there are verses like that too. That thou art not yet perfectly dead to thyself, nor detached from earthly things. Rather rejoice at reproach, for the love of Jesus maketh a man despise himself. That kind of stuff, And there are verses like that in Scripture too, but it's just it's pretty harsh. So anyway, so if sometimes TIs when they use when through that V2K stuff, they'll use religious scripts and talk against you, at you and against you. And this is when it becomes OCD, a type of religious constant dedication. Then it can lead to religious OCD or scrupulosity. It's something can happen to Catholics, Protestants, Jewish people, Muslims. It's just taking your faith very seriously, trying to do everything right to please God, not to do anything sinful or whatever. And then it just makes you want to have a drink of beer or something, just to go, ugh, which I did many times in my life. And I used to go home after work and read books on theology and apologetics and have a couple beers, 2 or 3 beers every night, and probably half a pack of cigarettes too. So that was my little thing. And deadly doctrine. This is, again, it shows how sometimes if they take it too much, too serious, and they can use Scripture against you. But if it does get to be like that, then I'd say go ahead and pick up a Joel Osteen, pick a Norman Vincent Peale or Robert Schuller, something that picks you up, using the faith to pick you up, and a devotional. If you're a Christian or evangelical or Catholic. But sometimes when you're a TI, they use this stuff against you. And that means anti-fun, anti-pleasure. They'll use the religion against you, There are, in the last days, there will be lovers of self rather than lovers of God, lovers of pleasure rather than, just the same thing. People who chase after pleasure, or lovers of self rather than lovers of God, that kind of thing. So if they're anti-pleasure, they can become masochists or anhedonics. They can be, so they use that. And then when you get hit in the heart with these weapons, they try to create a type of anhedonia where through the hitting, and then that's where they will use the religion against you. And so that's the danger. It's like you can already be very religious. In my case, they were studying for the ministry, and they did this to me anyway. I was in high school, and I went to Bible college, and they were hitting me, and it's like I was already studying for the ministry, and I think they get people to be partaking of this torture to other people, complete strangers. They get money for it, and they get people, police or whoever, FBI involved, and they even tell them it's a spiritual thing, bringing them closer to their faith. It's like, it might in some cases for some people, but they just do it because they get paid to find guinea pigs to experiment torture on them, and then pretend it's religious based, and that'll make people pretend that they're doing a good thing. And it's unbelievable that people will do this while they're saying drain the swamp, but they did, and they do still. So those are good books. And I'd say Michael Bell has that book, The Invisible Crime, 1 and 2, and these are good too. The Invisible Crime, it's written backwards. Of course, it's probably written right on there, but according to how I look at the computers, it looks like it's backwards. A Targeted Individual, Synthetic Telepathy, and Global criminal biomedical human experimentation. That's a lot. A targeted individual, synthetic telepathy, and global criminal biomedical human experimentation. A true story by Michael Fitzhugh-Bell. And I can guarantee all the stuff that was reading right there, it's true. This is part 2. He's got part 1 too. He's also got part 1 and all that stuff. V2K, human experiment, implants, chips. It sounds like something from a psych crazy movie, but it's true. And if you, on my YouTube channel, on created playlist, you can look at other normal people talk about at the White House bioethics meeting in 2011 and 2012. Other regular people talking about their experience of going through this. And this is a great one too. The Electromagnetic Revolution and Federal Targeted Individual Program by John Phillips. Contributing corporations and federal agencies in Idaho. So I would definitely get that for you. This is being a guinea pig for the brain-computer interface to see how the brain, they can read your reactions, probably your vital signs, and they send all this gang stalking or people messing with you, walking towards you, trying to freak you out so that they can read how you react. Either it's brain waves, like on a computer in front of them, or emotional. We think it's from the fusion centers. There's information from Targeted Justice and PAX International. But there's a lot of just good books out there too and stuff on the internet. So there's tons of them 5-10 years ago. But I think a lot of the people after some years went away. And I don't mean some might have died too, but I think some of them that were pretending to be part of it lost interest. And that lost interest somewhat with the Havana Syndrome. These things, time in the same time frame of 5 years, kind of. So I think that part of everything, Havana Syndrome, kind of a government thing, and trying to blame other countries. That's all it was. Taking all the stuff from targeted individuals and the same torture, the same technology, and trying to blame Havana, Cuba, because they got so much wonderful technology. They're the MIT of the rest of the world, Western world, I guess. I'm sorry for Cuba. They're probably great, but it's just blaming Cuba, then blaming China, blaming Russia. And then the CIA guy, to his credit, he actually said, yeah, we now know it's not a foreign country. We now know it's not a foreign adversary. So you're thinking, so that's when Leslie Stahl said, so that means it's us then. No, she didn't say that. It's a common sense question to ask. Well, if it's not a foreign adversary, then who is it? But they didn't ask it. It's just right there, the elephant in the room. It's got to be us. And it's like, it's us. Yeah, it's our own government doing it to us. And anyway, so it's kind of like I don't know. I'll go into it. Anyway, so this can create all this stuff, this E.L.F, extremely low frequency buzzing at the heart, and these hits to the heart or the head can create a type of anhedonic, anti-pleasure, and it's not that those things aren't as fun as they always were. It's just they can numb your brain, numb your heart, and when you're getting hit with these weapons, the heart to the head, and you're getting this, that you're so used to it, you may not even feel it because it's just a constant, very super low. And I didn't know that was even happening until they turned it off. And they turned it off and everything felt normal. It was wonderful. And then 4 or 5 hours later, it came back on. Not slow. It was just right back on, like a switch. And that's happened about 7 or 8 times. That's how I know what it's like to feel normal and to not have that, not be hit with that. Hi, Herbert. A few of his targets can all relate, but it's very isolating trying to convince others. People just don't want to hear about it, and they distance themselves from us if we tell them. That is true. It's I always bring up Havana Syndrome because that's the one thing that they can. And if you bring in Elon Musk and Neuralink and that kind of human cyborg, but it can be a scary thing. But the way to relate to people to where they can believe it, for me at least, is E.L.F. I've got it on my created playlist. So it said playlist and then created playlist. And I've got E.L.F. stuff, some of E.L.F. like the meeting in Portland rally, and then the White House bioethics. Those things will show this is happening to regular people before Havana Syndrome even happened. So this is regular people complaining of the same things. So it's, but I know what you mean. They do got some groups. I was thinking, I went to the one in Portland, and after COVID, they do have a group in Portland that I'm thinking of meeting up with. That's what I would like to really do. Just because there's some on internet, but I don't know if what's real and what's Fusion Center stuff. So I don't know. So, well, Herbert, I'm going to go make I always make my mom dinner by 7:30 so that she'll be home from work, and then I'll go with, what is that? That's good material. I've just personally given up on telling family that I'm feeling tortured. They're so tired of me complaining. I know. Michael Bell in this book, he kind of says the same thing. It's like, don't knock yourself trying to convince your family, because it's so they don't know. It's like my mom says, she knows the government has done a lot of bad things, and she watches a lot of news, so she knows that the government does bad things, but doesn't know what to do. Really can't do anything from her viewpoint. V2 gay guy. V2 guy. Did you get hit by frequencies? Yeah. But mine was 30 years, 36 years, and I get those sharp things, but it's a very low frequency. It's always here, and I get those random things throughout my body just whenever they feel like it. So 2016 at the White House bioethics, there's a lot in 2008, 2007, 2008. 2012 had a lot of people getting hit, and then 2015, 2016. Yeah, 24/7. I know what you mean. I do know what you mean. I know that you can look at Len Burr. I know Targeted.Just has got that lawsuit going on, and I would look up Dr. Lenber. That's his last name. First name Len, like Leonard, but Len, and then Ber. He's a medical doctor, and he does a weekly podcast. He's got Havana Syndrome. He interviews people like Karen Stewart and all that. But I would look up PAX International, it's Derek Robinson, I believe, and he's been at it for a number of years and been helping TI. So it should be pretty good. PAX International, PACTS International, and then Targeted Justice. It's got a lot. And they have the top 100 targeted individual websites on there too. The Michigan governor years ago. Oh, yeah, that's another thing, how the FBI screwed that one up, where they tried to, kidnap the Michigan governor, and they found out it was all FBI. That just is mainly FBI doing that whole thing. We could join that lawsuit. They only have like 15 or 9. Yeah, put the money I have into it if they would have let me join. I would look into it. They are always going to accept money. I would look up Targeted Justice. I would say not too much, just some, and see what they do as far as, I don't know. If you feel confident with it, and it's up to you if you feel like it, maybe they would. So I know they've got 15 or 19 people, and they are accepting help and donations and helping too. So I don't have much money myself. So if I had, I know with Havana Syndrome, they were offering $36 million for people suffering from Havana Syndrome. 36 million. So it'd be nice if we can get some of that money after going through this for so many years. It'd be nice if we had some money to at least get compensation and find something that would help us with our painful medical stuff. So yeah, that's a good idea. I'd let them join. So if they can let you join, that'd be the best idea. So, well, I'm going to go make my mom some dinner there, guys. So I'll talk to you guys another day. Okay. This is a great book. You can look at it on Amazon. I think it's $16. Right there, the Electromagnetic Revolution Federal Target Individual Program. You take care too, Herbert, okay? All right, B2K guy. And you guys have a good one, okay? I'll talk to you in a few days. Okay. All right. You take care, guys. All right. Bye-bye.